All right, I think we're ready to begin. So this should be a fun class. I'm doing a little bit of a different style than previous classes. This is going page by page from a section of Rabbi Ginsburg's book on physics, on Torah and physics. And first, a little bit of an introduction. So I've been a student and an editor for Rabbi Ginsburg for over 20 years. I lived in Israel for a few years to help him with English publications. And we worked together on a book called Frames of Mind, which is on Kabbalah and motivation. So that book was the Kabbalah basically of the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. It's a theory by Carol Dweck in Stanford. And we put together a whole Kabbalistic system behind her theory, and we published it. So that was the full-length book that I did with Rabbi Ginsburg. I also did various booklets and other articles. So kind of the idea behind this class is to show you a little bit behind the scenes of what it's like to do a derivative work of one of Rabbi Ginsburg's teachings. And what do I mean by a derivative work? Well, the Torah is the Torah, right? And how would I approach that to show the relevancy in our generation? Well, the first thing I look for is the terminology. The terminology is the kelim. Those are the vessels, and that's what changes, right? The Torah is the light that fills those vessels. And in order to show the relevance and the excitement of the Torah in our generation, you have to know how to speak the language of the generation, right? So actually, the first class that I gave here was about this topic called spontaneous healing. This was Dr. Jeffrey Rediger analyzed terminally ill patients, and thank God these people were able to recover. They experienced spontaneous remission. And throughout his years of research and hundreds of hours, he came to a conclusion that the most important pillar for health is healing one's identity. So in that class, I went on and explained what does it mean to heal your identity. And I decided a topic of interest, which is a pretty, maybe even in this area, but even in general, an interesting topic, is this movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Best picture. And there's some interesting terminology and words that were used in that movie that can help to explain different ideas in Torah. And when I was beginning to research and beginning to explore this topic, I noticed something remarkable, and that was that I took a little break, maybe 4 or 5 months, Robin, right, since our last class?
The rain. It was boring.
Yeah, so the last class was an intimate affair.
It really was. But it was great. It was about AI. It was about ChatGPT.
Right.
That was great.
So that was a fun class. And
yeah, it was a private class.
But, in LA, when it rains, it pours, even at a trickle, right?
Indeed. And also, Angelina's become complete wimps when it rains. It's like, oh no, we can't go out of the house. It's raining.
Right. But, I was missing something, and I'm thankful that you felt that these classes really brought value, and thank you for inviting me back.
With great pleasure. It's our privilege.
Thank you. So the first class that I gave here was on spontaneous healing.
Yeah.
So it's very apropos that this first class back is taking it to the next level. Basically, instead of healing the individual, now we're talking about healing the multiverse. Healing all of creation, including the theorized universes, which we're going to explain according to quantum mechanics. So this is really stepping it up and explaining according to using some of the metaphors in this movie, and using what Rabbi Ginsburg explained about in terms of physics, especially quantum mechanics, what it means to heal the multiverse. Okay, which obviously we're into tikkun olam, right? So why stop at our world, right? Just expand it into all possible worlds.
So what is a 1-minute summary of the previous talk? Just so we build on that.
Or maybe the spontaneous healing talk, yeah?
So what I'm going to get to it because it's going to bring those points. But the idea is, what does it mean to heal your identity? It means to return a person's lost identity. And we all have these, we come to the world for a reason. It's to remember that original purpose and reason, our origin story, effectively, of why we came here to begin with. So if we remember that and we align with that, then we can align and heal our identity by fulfilling our purpose in this world. Right? Our God-given purpose in this world. This all comes here for a very specific mission, and so that's in short. I think I maybe even did 30 seconds, but
Somebody's trying to come in.
so that in short is that class. But we're going to explain it a little bit more because it really quite amazingly relates to our topic this evening. So first, I'd like to begin with the Hayom Yom of today, and if you want to know how to orient yourself. So you look to the daily study portion, either the daily Hayom Yom from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, or the Chumash of the day, or the Tanya of the day. And so I read this, and I'm like, wow, this is perfect. This is a perfect way to begin this class. And we haven't yet got to the handout. So if you're looking at the handout, we're going to get there soon. Okay, so today's Hayom Yom. This is for the 16th of Sivan. Sorry. The early sages, who were like angels, may their merit protect us, have already determined that the healing of the soul is like the healing of the body. The crucial first step is to identify the location of the illness, whether it is caused by the crassness, grossness, and corruption of his physical body, or by a failing in his soul powers. The person being inclined to undesirable traits like arrogance or falsehood and the like, or the source of the malady may be habit, inadequate rearing, or unwholesome environment having brought on bad habits. Without ascertaining the specific site of the illness and the cause of infection, it is impossible to embark on a cure. One can only prescribe an orderly, proper conduct in all matters, what to do and what to avoid. To do good in terms of observing mitzvos, designating times for Torah study, and acquiring good character traits, and also to turn away from evil. And then I circled this last paragraph. Most urgent of all, however, is that the patient make himself aware of two things. A, to know that he is ill, and desire most fervently to be cured of his malady. B, to know that he can be cured with hope and absolute trust that with God's help he will indeed be cured of his sickness.
That's today's Yom Yom.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
So we're going to explain it, and there are several topics in this movie. The one that I'm choosing to focus on because it aligns so beautifully with this chapter from Rabbi Ginsburg's book, which incidentally, this was a seminar in 2007. I don't know if you were here, Robin, Beyond the Physical Universe.
Yeah.
So it was a seminar that Rabbi Ginsburg gave here in LA. So I thought it was also very appropriate to...
Yeah, we were one of the hosts of it. I think this is the physics one.
The physics one.
Yeah, yeah.
March
yeah.
2000
I have all my notes from it.
Yeah, March 2007. So I thought it was... So I thought it was just very appropriate that we are discussing this today in LA. And so what are the two things that the Rebbe is telling us tonight to focus on? We have to know that we have to know that the person has to know first that they're sick, and then secondly that they can be cured. So the main thing that this movie brings is whether there is free will, whether there is an opportunity to correct both myself and the world. And we're going to discuss the difference between determinism, which means everything is set, and free will, which means we can choose our own destiny, and the ability to repair oneself. right? To have hope in oneself that one can return their lost identity and return to their true state of who they're really supposed to be in this world. So I thought it was just a beautiful Hayom Yom.
Can you clarify? You said in there that there's two sources for it. One is nefesh and one is the body, which is very odd, right? As you were reading, you said there are two sources. In the very early on,
The soul and the body.
But they're very intertwined.
Okay, 1 second. Good question. Okay, so refuas hanefesh. So nefesh we generally translate as psyche.
Mm-hmm.
So to repair one's psychology. Soul is not a very good translation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good you ask, and good to go to the Hebrew, because nefesh is better translated as psyche. So to repair one's psychology. So we're gonna explain that. Okay, so first we have to just give a little bit of a background quickly about this is just earlier in the book about quantum mechanics, and the reason why this is already a step in the right direction is because you have something called the uncertainty principle, right? Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, which state that you can't know both the location and the momentum of an elementary particle at the same time. So you're already starting to allow for some uncertainty. Meaning, if you know where everything is, if you know where every particle is, as we're going to explain, then maybe you can map out everything. Maybe a scientist, if you could put it on in a computer, especially nowadays, and he'll be able to tell you everything that you're going to do for the rest of your life, right? That's classical determinism. Already, when you're talking about quantum determinism, there's probabilistic. They can say up to maybe 99% what you're going to do, but they can't ever say 100% that I know this is what you're going to do. Okay, so this is already a step in the right direction. The other thing that I wanted to bring from earlier is that Rabbi Ginsburg related quantum mechanics to the world of creation, to Olam HaBriya, which is the world of thoughts, but it's also potential, right? We're not saying that, like these universes, right? We're not saying that they're actual universes according to Kabbalah, but it's like a thought experiment. Like, what if I did this? What if I even minute things, what if we scheduled the class for 8 instead of 8:30, or, So every decision is a thought experiment of what if, so that's all a meditation in the world of creation, the world of Bria, which also relates to the world of quantum mechanics. So it's a world of potential. Okay, so there's a very funny quote from the movie where there's the husband, the wife, and the daughter, right? So So the husband says to his wife, the husband's from a different universe, but he comes to this other universe, and he says, I've seen thousands of Evelyns, but never an Evelyn like you. You have so many goals you never finished, dreams you never followed. Most people only have a few significant alternative life paths so close to them, but you here, you're capable of anything because you're so bad at everything. So it's a very funny quote. I mean, the movie is very inappropriate, so I'm not recommending the movie. But
Can you read it one more time? Do you mind?
yeah, it's just a hilarious quote. It's one of my two favorite quotes from the movie.
Maybe summarize the movie, because maybe not
Yeah,
everyone saw it.
so I'll do that. Okay, so the idea is that you have the multiverse, which is basically all of creation, is at risk, is at peril, and there is an evil villain who turns out to be their daughter, right? And she's just disenfranchised by everything because she was pushed beyond her limits. She was able to see into every universe And the result of being able to see all possible outcomes was that there's no meaning to anything. And one of the themes of the movie is nihilistic, right? That everything is by chance, nothing is meaningful. So she turns into this supervillain that wants to destroy everything. Obviously, her mother would like to reach her, as her daughter, Joy, or Jobu, and to try to convince her not to destroy all of creation or herself. And so that's kind of the dynamic between the mother and the daughter. And the husband, in the first reality that they explained in the movie, he's ready to divorce his wife. But in this other reality, he's trying to save the multiverse, and he comes to this world and teams up with his wife of this world in order to save all of creation. And it's a very aside from the vast inappropriate parts, it's a very interesting movie in terms of metaphors. And again, as we said, we're trying to focus on the terms and the words that are being used in order to show that these concepts that in this example Rabbi Ginsburg was talking about in 2007, point by point, and it's amazing as we go through it, goes according to the major points of this movie. And here we have a book that maybe sold a couple hundred copies, and we have a movie that has been seen by many thousands.
Millions.
Yeah, probably millions at this point. So
The power of movies.
So again, what we're explaining.
So you could quote again.
Okay, so what we're explaining is that all of this is in Torah, and we just don't necessarily know it. So tonight we're going to be learning how to apply real time, giving the terminology of today. So I'll read it one more time. So again, the husband from a different universe comes to this universe to his wife, who's going to become the savior of all of creation, and he says, "I've seen thousands of Evelyns, but never an Evelyn like you. You have so many goals you never finished, dreams you never followed. Most people only have a few significant alternative life paths so close to them, but you here, you're capable of anything because you're so bad at everything." And so,
She married him anyway?
In many multiverses.
yeah, exactly. And as we're saying here, that quantum mechanics relates to being good in terms of potential, not necessarily action. Once you choose one path, then that's you're stuck with that path. But if you are so bad at literally everything, then you're still staying in that realm of potential. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go to the handout, and we're going to just go take portions of this handout. Again, this is available on Amazon, called Lectures on Torah and Modern Physics from Rabbi Ginsburg. And this is a lightly edited transcript of his class, of one of his classes here in LA. And let's just get started. Any questions so far? Okay, we're good. All right. Okay, so here in the second paragraph, and this is why I'm like, well, this has got to be the topic for this evening. Rabbi Ginsburg said, if there is a reason to argue that science contradicts faith, it's the problem of determinism. More so than evolution, the age of the universe, it's determinism. Why? Because if there's no free will, then what's the purpose of life? Right? It's the greatest gift that God gave us, in addition to life, is free will. Otherwise, we'd be like angels or animals. Right? So this is the gift that was given to humankind.
Why is that a problem with science?
It's a problem, no, not a problem with science, a problem with us. The thing the greatest thing from science that would contradict Torah is to say that there's no free will. It's a problem for anyone who believes. It's a contradiction. It's like a battle.
I'm just saying that science never says that. It's just a model in science. Science is many models.
Right.
So
So-
that particular model has a problem with our faith. The others don't.
Right. So according to classical determinism, that Laplace quotes here from Laplace, who says that if you know the position of every particle, then you can know it 100% what you're going to do. So that for sure, 100% contradicts the notion of free will. Right. So now quantum mechanics is already a little bit better, and we're going to explain how that's already a step in the right direction. That's called quantum determinism. So you'll correct me. I see I have a good expert here in the audience. That's good. Okay, so on the bottom of this page 145, quantum mechanics declares that it is impossible to really know the initial conditions, all the more so that I cannot know where things will end up. Okay, so the next paragraph is a major theme that's used in this movie. And I'll just sum it up, that you can know pretty much, as maybe 99%, something like that. You can know pretty much what a person's going to do, but you can't say 100%. So in the movie, when you have the husband all of a sudden eating a chapstick, that's one of the scenes. He takes out his chapstick in front of these officers in the IRS building. He's in big trouble, and he wants to leap to another universe. And how is he going to do that? By doing something that is very improbable, right? How often, I don't know, maybe some people have done that, eat a whole stick of chapstick. No. So that was, they figure out in the movie what is the most improbable way and how to jump from this universe to the next universe. So that's already saying, like, how are we combating this villain? We're doing it by doing that which quantum mechanics is allowing us to do, by doing that which is improbable. Even if it's the 1%, I'm exercising my free will. So you see how it's already there's an opening, right? We're going from the classical determinism model, which says, sorry, there's no chance. And we're saying that, okay, there's a small chance, but you have to do something crazy, right? And throughout the movie, they have these, you have to change the shoes that, your left shoe has to be on the right shoe, and the right shoe has to be on the left shoe, and some really inappropriate things, and just all types of crazy things throughout the movie, right? Why? Because it's telling you that how you're exercising your free will by doing the improbable, and the more improbable, the better. It says that in certain points in the movie. I went through through the screenplay, so okay.
Hold on one second. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the one hand, hi, welcome. So on the one hand, you start off with a very chaotic scene, and it talks. There's a lot of chaotic elements that are brought and specifically introduced in this movie, and in a way, if we look at this on the bottom of 146, this is kind of how Einstein felt originally. Now, what do you mean that God doesn't play dice with the universe, right? So it's very hard it was very hard, especially for the older scientists at that time, to go from a classical deterministic model of the universe to quantum determinism. But it doesn't have to be that things are by chance, right? As we're explaining, that even those things that seem crazy, right? Those are expressions of our free will, and are those things that we don't expect. Okay, let's go to the next page. So now we get to the fun part of black holes, and this is a really fun imagery in the movie. What is the black hole of the movie? It's a bagel. That was the graphic on the flyer. So I gotta just jump right into the quote because you love these quotes from the movie. So this is my the quote that I read originally was my other favorite quote. This is my second favorite quote. This is from Jobu. She's the daughter / supervillain who's gonna maybe destroy the universe, or at least herself, the multiverse. So this is her quote. I got bored one day, so I put everything on a bagel. I was thinking maybe we should have bagels, but it's late at night. So. All of my hopes and dreams, my old report cards, every breed of dog, every last personal ad on Craigslist, sesame, poppy seed, salt, and it collapsed in on itself. When you really put everything on a bagel, it becomes this, the truth. And so, initially, what's the truth for her? It's as we're going to explain, it's the pull of heresy, that there's no point to anything. And obviously, we want to escape that pull of heresy, which we're going to explain. But that's, anyone want to hear that quote again?
Wait,
Sure, go for it.
So this is probably the most famous quote of the movie. Okay. I got bored one day, so I put everything, it's in all capital letters on the screenplay, just in case anyone doubted. I put everything on a bagel. All of my hopes and dreams, my old report cards, every breed of dog, every last personal ad on Craigslist, sesame, poppy seed, salt, and it collapsed in on itself. When you really put everything on a bagel, it becomes this, the truth. So we explained that the Jobu is this person that got to see all the possible realities, universes, and decided that, well, I've seen everything, and now I know that there's no point to anything, right? Because I've explored everything. Okay, so what is this? Okay, so we are on page 147, Black Holes and Determinism. So I'm just going to get the source for this quote. Okay, from Mishlei, from Proverbs. So the way that Rabbi Ginsburg explains it, he gives two explanations. The second one is all who, as a source in the Torah for black holes. He says, he quotes from Proverbs, all who enter will not return. And this is from Proverbs 2:19. Then he continues. This is the end of the first paragraph. This verse actually refers to heresy. Whoever comes into it will not be able to get out of it. That's what Egypt appeared to be. No slave could escape. It was the absolute prison. Nonetheless, the Almighty delivered us out of Egypt. So we see already this pull, this push and pull in the movie of, are you going to be swallowed up in this pool of heresy, or is there any way to escape? Right? Yes?
Sort of like Hotel California.
You have to explain that maybe at the end.
Very famous. You can
Check out anytime you want, but you can never
you
leave.
can never leave.
Okay. Yeah. So initially we said that already going from classical determinism to quantum determinism was a step in the right direction, because we said maybe if you do crazy, improbable things, right, maybe that's going to be this thing that saves all of reality, it allows you to escape the evil villain until you can convince her to be good again, or at least to continue to live another day. Now we're saying that, hey, this daughter wants to bring you into the black hole, right? He wants to say, no, that you think you can escape, but eventually you're going to end up back here because everything is on this bagel, right? And so she tries to show her mother time and again and introduce her and bring her closer to the bagel, right? Which is this pull that, nothing matters, right? That's the pull of heresy. Okay. Okay, and then we go to the next page, 148. So now we are saying, okay, this takes us into our central theme of remembering our true selves, of who we are. So initially we said, okay, maybe there's some free will, but it's very improbable. Once in a while you do a crazy thing, then you can exercise it. But here we're faced with a black hole. So instead of avoiding it, instead of ignoring it and saying it doesn't exist, is there something good about a black hole? And this is from 2007, step by step. It is really beautifully paralleling the movie. So here we have Hawking, right, in his second insight, and we'll skip to the very end. This idea of whether information is lost or not in a black hole, and if it's lost, is it remembered? Right? Is there some way to get it back? So we'll skip to the end, and you can take this home and read the paragraph yourself, but just skip to the end. But if all of a sudden the universe loses information due to the black hole, then even probability cannot tell me about the future. And this is, if you want to know how to escape quantum determinism, this is it. Not only is it, but it's saying it's an even higher level, and we're going to explain it further, to remember lost information, which on a personal level means to remember that lost part of myself that I forgot, right? That here I'm trying to go into the black hole, right? The daughter is trying to go into the black hole. We're trying to go into that pool of heresy. And that pool of heresy, when nothing matters and everything is deterministic, turns out to be the thing that frees us. So that thing that was once the symbol of despair becomes the symbol of hope. Right?
But if you could determine, if you knew where every particle was, and so you could determine the future, why couldn't you determine which information would be lost in the black hole?
Well, first of all, quantum determinism says you can't with 100% accuracy do that. And if you... I'm not the physics expert, but there must be some type of randomness of what information gets lost, so they don't exactly know what is lost and then what is remembered. I'm not the expert.
Whatever's in black hole is forgotten. You
Yeah,
can't have access
everything's
to it
lost.
by definition.
Mm-hmm.
It's in there. There's nothing coming out, so it's gone. So you don't have access to it. So
No,
you can't
that's
predict the future.
according to this, that's controversial, whether information is lost or not inside of a black hole.
The substance may go into there, but the remembrance of the substance is perhaps something that can be reached.
There's a debate whether there's a memory of what is
Because of the Hawking radiation.
right, because of Hawking.
Something that comes out.
Right, exactly. Right, it relates to Hawking radiation. Right. Again, I'm explaining the metaphors of our day. I'm not a physics expert, but Rabbi Ginsburg is very very knowledgeable in mathematics, and also a lot of times, if there's any question, this book would be edited by.
Music of the black hole.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a random event.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, now you can leave. You're,
That was very probable though, because it happens every day.
So right. So a lot of times over the years, we would refer to experts. We had a very close student who was a biologist and so forth. So I'm not the expert on these matters, but it says here that there's a debate on whether information is lost or not inside of a black hole, and it says it does relate to Hawking radiation. So, okay. All right, now we are on the next page, which is 149, returning lost information. Okay, so in that original class, we were discussing how it is that a person who loses and regains their identity relates to finding a lost object. And here again, it discusses that. So we have here the daughter who feels like she lost herself, so she's going to destroy all of creation, or maybe just herself. And how do we how do we return back to our true selves and who we are? And we discussed it a little bit in the beginning of remembering our life's purpose, remember why we're here to be, why we came to this world to begin with. So I'm just gonna read from the middle of this page. There are two simple and obvious images of lost information. The first is that losing information is like forgetting. To lose information psychologically is like forgetting. So the question about information lost in a black hole is there something inherent in the universe that allows it to forget? According to the Torah, it is very good to forget, because by forgetting you can open up new directions of choice. So this idea that the mother was not good at anything means that she wasn't limited by anything, because she didn't yet begin any specific path of life. So, we started off by saying that again, if you do the improbable, if you do something crazy, maybe that's exercising your free will. Now we're saying if you forget and regain it, maybe that's the greatest expression of free will, because you're becoming like born anew, you're becoming a new person. Right? And that ultimately is what they try to portray in the movie, of people returning to themselves, regaining their kindness. So let me skip to this. Yeah.
Doesn't that limit you again? You might remember what you forgot, but then you're again just in one lane, so to speak.
Well, it's always remembering that moment when you came to this world, when you first your reason for being here. So if you let's say we go on a specific path of life, and maybe it's not what we're supposed to be doing, right? So then we could alter the course, or we could get totally lost and then just try to go back to the starting point, right? I had one time as a kid, we were trying to go to a restaurant, and at a certain point, my father just went back to the hotel and then started over again, right? Instead of trying to figure out where the restaurant was, just start from the beginning point again and start over again. So.
But it doesn't give you more options. It just might be a truer you.
Right. It's one that's not affected by the choices that you've made until now. Right. So you've chosen a certain path until now, and the path from that point on may be sequential, maybe more sequential if you just try to reset. Right. All right, and the next paragraph again is that is something that is lost or misplaced is a Veda. So we explained last time about like the Rebbe would, like, so to speak, find someone's diamonds, that return it to them, return their identity, return their Jewish identity, return them to their true place as part of the Jewish people, for instance, or to help them to realize their goals and their purpose in life. So this happens through the act of losing and then regaining. Okay, so a lot of what's discussed in this movie, they bring it time and again, that things are just a statistical inevitability, right? So there's a beautiful story that's brought near the end, where they're going to arrest the mother because she owes taxes, and she's going crazy because she sees all these different worlds, and they don't know what's going on with her. And the husband talks to the IRS tax collection officer and says that, listen, I gave her divorce papers, and she's just, it's a very traumatic and stressful time in her life, and maybe you can go easy on her. So it says, against all odds, Deirdre's face softens. That's the tax collector. She takes the husband's hand and gently pats it. Evelyn's curiosity draws her back into the laundromat. And then there you see that Evelyn and this tax collector, Deirdre, they share a nice, kind moment at the end. And Jobu tries to say, oh, it's just a statistical inevitability. It's nothing special. And here you had, according to the probability, the mother was going to probably go to prison, or, just the police were there in her laundromat. She was breaking everything, and it just seemed to be that nothing good was going to happen from this. And then all of a sudden, things turn around. And like one example that I thought of for this is you have the saddest day of the year, which is Tisha B'Av, and then a couple days later you have a day of rejoicing in Tu B'Av. And this is kind of like Jewish history, where you go from you can go from a sad moment, but we choose to lift ourselves up. I mean, Hashem lifts us up. We choose to be joyful, and this is all an expression of our free will. So the idea that somehow we're escaping quantum determinism, to say that maybe at best we have a 1%, is really returning to ourselves, returning to to who we are. And this they try to express it in the movie, but yeah, I mean, it's just this goes beyond any statistics. Okay.
By the way, there's a section here that you skipped on string theory.
Mm-hmm.
It's also talking about the fact that string theory says that even after a wave destruction, the information lost in a black hole can be retrieved.
Right.
Just going back to what you were saying before.
Right. Okay, this is I'm gonna slowly wrap this up over here, but on page 151, the second from the last paragraph, it says everything is trapped in there, meaning the black hole. What is the only thing that can come out of there that we can resurrect? It is lost information. So again, this idea of remembering our true purpose, and ultimately the purpose for all of creation is to return the lost information for all of creation back to its original intent that God intended.
What does that mean practically?
Okay, yeah, 1 second. Let me just... Okay, so practically speaking, so everything, everywhere, all at once. So you're seeing all of these possible worlds. I know this was a little bit technical, but you see all of the things that you could have done. And you're saying, well, there's one reality that I'm living, and one reality that matters, and that's the reality that I'm supposed to be living. So there's all these potential states. There's all these things I could do, right? She could have been an opera singer, she could have been a movie star, she could have been a martial arts master, right? But what matters is where I am, and that's kind of what they try to explain in the movie, where I am in the present, where I am in this reality. And even more so, because we're saying that those aren't literal worlds, those are possible worlds. We think of all these things we could have done in life, and we have to know that where we are is where we're meant to be. And instead of everything everywhere, we're to focus on the present, to focus on our lives in the present, and but at the same time, to align ourselves with that identity and that version of ourselves which is the truest version of ourselves. When Jobu says, I put everything on the bagel and all there is truth. Well, that's true. Her truth initially was that of heresy, but it turns around and, well, if you see all possible outcomes, ultimately you have to realize that where should you be is right here, right now. Right? That's the outcome that makes the difference. And I'll just skip to the end because, this was a lot of things to digest. But there's a beautiful thing on page 157. And so if we were to come up with a Hebrew word for the title of the movie, that Hebrew word would be Havaya. Right? Havaya is what we call God, but it stands for present tense, and we know that God is Haya Hoveh V'yeh, past, present, and future, and we're the omnipresent one, right? So the one who really sees all possible realities, and yet he chose this reality for ourselves. This reality this is the reality that we live. This is the world that was given the Torah. And if we take the last paragraph, if we take Have, which is present, times, so here in this correspondence, Rabbi Ginsburg multiplies the present times 248, which is the number of positive commandments. So by the end of the movie, it says, do something positive, right? Live in the present, do something positive. That's this gematria right here. And so in the last sentence, take as a standalone word, their meaning is present. For according to Kabbalah, the positive commandments rectify the present moment of reality. So if we're focusing on the present, right, all at once, meaning like, okay, we take everything, all possibilities, all possible worlds, all possible realities, and we're focusing on the present. So do something good, right? Do a good deed. And that's kind of like where the movie progresses to. Is like do something good for someone else, right? So that's what we do with it. So if we so again, we transitioned. I know this was a mouthful. This is more content than I usually try to give in a class, but we went from classical determinism that says that there's no hope. Just if you know where the position of every particle, we're going to know what you're going to do next, right? And then we went from quantum determinism that says, okay, do something improbable, right? Which, as we said, is do something, for example, fun in the face of adversity. Just just see Hashem's hand in everything. There's people that were able, faced adversity and were able to become stronger in their faith, right? That is something improbable, right? But that's an exercise of one's free will. And then we said, okay, so black holes. Let's talk about black holes. We're gonna try to first bring them to the black hole. Is it gonna make them a heretic? Hold on. No, because it could be a resetting point, right? And if you're able to start over, to press the start button again, right? That's the central theme throughout the movie, is that, they're flashing between all these potential worlds. Okay, so we have all these potential worlds we can choose from, and then we have to choose. Okay, what am I going to do now? Right, like a midlife crisis. I can change a course. I can do something different now. What am I going to do? So we do this all the time, every day. We're like, well, maybe I should be doing something different with my life. Okay, but we're saying that the act of forgetting and then remembering is a much powerful thing than doing a gradual. I know who I am already, and gradually doing something a little bit different the next day. So Evelyn in this world was not good at anything. So she was the perfect one to free us all from this, so to speak, from determinism. And then we said, okay, so now that we have this potential to free ourselves, and we see all these potentials, well, we're here in the present. So we're not focused on all these potentials. Okay, let's do something practical in the present. Let's do a good deed, right? And that's what the husband he explains to the tax collector, and she does an act of kindness, right, to the wife. And ultimately, the mother and the daughter reunite, and everyone is happy, and all of that. So that's like the progression of what we're explaining. So what does that mean for us? Is that we know that the secret behind all of this is Havaya, right? To enter God into this, the true omnipresent one, who knows all of the potentials of all worlds, and yet He chose this one, and He chose you, and He chose this moment, and we just have to imbue that with the greatest version of our lives that we can. So, any questions?
Yeah, I wanted to say something about the randomness that we were talking about earlier, the classic determinism versus quantum. Not to say that free will doesn't exist, but I don't think that you get there by asserting randomness. Like, so if you imagine just a dreidel, you spin the dreidel, and it comes to whatever side it ends up landing at. If you spin it long enough, and if you spin enough of these, you're going to fail to be able to predict exactly how all of them lands because of all the complex interactions with the environment, and at some point, perhaps quantum mechanics enters into it too.
Mm-hmm.
So that dreidel, those sets of dreidels, will end up landing wherever they land, purely randomly, not in a way that you can consistently predict, but at the same time, I don't think anyone would assert that they have free will, or that even the person who spun them had it in terms of determining where they land, because no one knows. So, in other words, in my mind, I don't think randomness necessarily implies free will. Randomness just implies that you can't predict something happening.
Well, right. Actually, first of all, the example of the dreidel was very good, because that's the expression that's used, is that we are spinning throughout our lives and we have to land somewhere. So this Evelyn was still spinning. That's like the imagery, is that she didn't land anywhere yet. In terms of right, probability doesn't equal free will. That's true. It's the choice. It's the choice that we're really focusing on. It's not as they said in the movie, to do something maybe improbable doesn't equal free will, right? Eating chopstick is not free will, right? Because it's something that's not common. It doesn't mean a person exercises free will. Free will is mitzvos. To do a mitzvah is to exercise free will, because that's of our volition, of our that basically it's something that we can get reward for, although we don't do it for the reward. But that's an easy way to put it. The whole reason why there can be reward and punishment is because there is free will. Well, what do we get reward for, and what do we get punished for? Well, the good stuff and the bad stuff that God tells us to do and not to do, right? So here we said at the end, this gematria and this value that Rabbi Ginsburg brings of the multiplication of the 248 of the positive commandments and the present. So how do we exercise our free will? Is by doing the mitzvahs, right? Right. So that's a very good point, because eating chopstick or changing my shoes to the wrong legs, that's not free will. That's just doing things that most people don't do.
Perhaps another way to think of it is, even though randomness does not equal free will, the fact that randomness exists proves that everything is not predetermined, which gives the possibility of exercising free will. But I agree with you, it is not free will itself.
That was
Well,
very
it
well
is
put.
predetermined in the sense of randomness, you just don't know what it's gonna be.
In
In other words, if you could exactly know what the initial conditions were, it would end up the same way it ends up, but you just don't know them.
that's another construct on top of the thought progression. I see
Yeah.
that, but to my mind, if something is predeterminable, it's knowable. But I see what you're asserting on top of that. But in my mind,
Yeah.
if there is an ultimate truth and an ultimate destiny that's written, then we would know it and it's fixed. If there's something that's not fixed, i.e. randomness, that leaves way for people to potentially exercise free will. But I totally see what you're saying as well.
And it's a
Predictable
gift.
determinism.
Unpredictable determinism is what you said?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just summarizing what you're saying.
Oh,
I mean, that's one way to put it. If you could know the initial conditions, if you could know them exactly, then it would fall out according to physics or whatever. But you
again,
can't know them, but because you don't know them, doesn't mean that it's still not following some kind of rules to get to where it's going.
Right.
Interesting. The rules of randomness. If we could conclusively put out the random order of a sequence would fall in this area of probability, we might be able to predict it.
But I'm saying, like, the dreidel doesn't have free will, right? I mean,
Correct.
It's
It's
random.
inanimate.
it's random, and the laws that are governing its motion are creating, based on the initial conditions, you could say that the result is random, but nowhere in there is there a place for free will. Just in terms of that, I'm not saying we don't have free will, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying we do or we don't. I'm just saying that randomness doesn't get you there.
But perhaps another quantum
Yeah.
mechanics principle which says an electron is in a cloud. We don't know where it is, it's in an orbit, but our observation of it determines where it is.
Right,
So-
that's a quantum theory. And I'm not disputing what you're saying, but I would say that a dreidel can never have free will because it doesn't have will to begin with. It would be the person spinning it.
Yeah.
But I totally get the construct that you're observing, and I think it's fascinating.
Right, for the quantum thing, the observation determines, I would just say that's the same thing as you palming the dreidel at some point and it ends up on some side, but in that sense, you stopped it, but you still don't know where it ends up. You know what I mean? Like, it ends up somewhere because you stopped it at that moment in time, but you couldn't predict it, just in the same way by you observing a quantum system, you can't predict the position of a particle that you end up observing.
No, I simply
Yeah.
connected the fact that we can affect the outcome
Right.
by our observation.
Just like
So it
when you
means that our
palm the dreidel.
mind has a connection to physicality.
Right, but you don't know what that ends up being, is the point.
Well, we don't have a theory of what
Right.
it is, but maybe our nefesh knows how it is. I'm just not aware of it. I don't have a theory of it. But the fact that there exists such a dimension,
Yeah.
that gives a pathway for mind affecting physicality and therefore will.
It doesn't do it for me
It
as far as
says in
free
the
will.
Torah, it says in the Torah that everything is in the hands of heaven, except for the fear of heaven. Which means everything that happens to us in this world is predetermined. It's like the dreidel, everything, it's all predetermined. The question is how we react to that. How we react to the things that happen to us in the world. That's where free will comes in.
That would be predetermined also.
Pardon me?
That would be predetermined as well.
Why would it be predetermined?
Why not?
Because it was a
Yes.
gift, as my wife was saying, well, nobody
I mean, if you put
That
your hand
free
on a
will.
hot stove and you react, is that your choice?
No, that's not your choice. When we talk about fear of heaven, that everything is in the hands of heaven, except fear of heaven, that means the ability to make moral choices. That's not a moral choice you're referring to.
But we also say that tzedakah, teshuvah, and tefillah can change things.
Right, and again, that's our,
That's, I mean, maybe that comes out
oh, I
of
see what you're saying.
Yiras Shamayim, but, you know, it's rooted in Yiras Shamayim, but that we are not we are not bound
We're not
by
bound to
astrology, right? We're not bound by,
Right.
they say the Yidden are above,
It's almost-
astrology is
right,
real, but
right.
we're above it.
Right, but it's in within the hands of heaven, let's say, to change the course of things. And that can be as a result of the free will that we've exerted, like you say, Torah, tshuva,
Tzedakah,
tzedakah,
tefillah.
and
But there's no contradiction between everything being in the hands of heaven and me having free will.
correct.
So for
That's right.
example, if
Correct.
I'm going to the valley and there are 20 ways to go, but they're all then gonna force me to go to the same place, I could be forced to go to some place, but I have choice which one I'm gonna take.
Actually, you may think that you have a choice, all right? But
Right.
it's based
From my
upon
perspective,
calculations.
I have a
that-
choice.
Right.
And we
From
don't
heaven's
know the
perspective,
outcome.
I don't have a
Google
choice.
tells
So the question is, who said that? Who said everything's in the hands of heaven, except fear of heaven? Is it Shammai saying it, or is it a person saying it?
This is coming from the Torah, so it's Shemayim saying it. But again, when a person makes a choice, which is not a moral choice,
Thank you.
it's not necessarily a choice.
Hmm.
It's not
Did you write your
there are
number?
predetermined
You wrote
things
your
going
number?
on,
You
whether it's
you
quantum
texted
or
me?
whether it's.
From above, from below, from my
Is this a
perspective,
series of lectures?
Oh, I see.
Every time I do something
We
different,
don't know.
I was thinking to do AI again next time.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you.
Can I get on your list?
Yeah,
as well?
please.
Robin, you have the list?
You have a list, Robin?
Yeah, we might
Oh,
need,
I
I'm
have
gonna,
a,
yeah.
I'll give it back.
Thanks.
Here,
I'm
just want to
taking
put
it
your
off.
Thank you.
name
Thank
down
you so
for
much.
future
Thank
classes.
So just so you guys know, usually I don't try to cover this much material in a
Yeah,
class.
no, it's okay.
So it's a little bit easier and a little bit lighter. But I just there's just a beautiful correspondence that I saw from this chapter of the book. So I tried to cover a lot of ground. It may not have been the best idea, but thank you.
Oh, it was really great.
Thank
The
you.
connections
Thank you.
You know, the lecture actually, the conclusion all ties into the very famous Hasidic story of why there's atheism. And the rabbi, someone asked, why is atheism? And some great rabbi said, when a poor person comes to your door, that's when you should be an atheist. In other words, you're the one that, in other words, you have to do a good deed.
Mm-hmm.
When the heresy comes, the answer is to do a good deed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what you're saying.
Say that again, just say that one more time.
It's a very famous question.
Thank you.
If God makes everything, so why did God make atheism? So this was asked, I think it was a great Hasidic rabbi, and he said, atheism has a very important purpose. The purpose is when a poor person comes to your door, that's when you should be an atheist. In other words, God is not going to help this person. You need to help this person.
I see.
Interesting.
So just one more thing that I would like to end with.
God's not gonna take care
Right.
of them, you have to take care of them.
Yeah.
So that's a good time. An atheist would say it's my responsibility.
Oh, a good
A moral atheist.
A God-fearing atheist.
The humanist, just in case.
Maybe not someone that believes in Ayn Rand's philosophy.
If you want to pass this around. So we have one more handout. Just-
I wonder what
I
determination would say about marketing.
People at the river.
About what?
Like social media marketing.
Dreams clear.
Because like Facebook and these media companies, they could predict human behavior to an extraordinary degree.
Right.
And one of the reasons they're even slightly limited is because they're limited, like they can't get to our medical records and stuff, not yet,
Right.
as far as we know. But
Right.
the more information they get, the more they're able to predict human
Right.
behavior.
The initial class I gave on AI in January was explaining, well, what is a human? If what makes a human? And there it went into the model of, well, what is the ultimate human, which is Mashiach. So that's on YouTube. You can watch that. Especially the second part of the class, like around the 46-minute mark. People really enjoyed that part. But exactly, what makes a human? Right? what's free will? Where do we actually exercise free will on? So these are all, we're questioning everything in this generation because we're coming to Mashiach, so everything gets questioned now. Okay, so recently, on the 41st day of the Omer, Rabbi Ginsburg gave a class, and it was headlined, "A New Era in Spreading the Wellspring. The Wellsprings Begins Today." Okay, so what is this new era in spreading the wellsprings?
Does this year he gave a talk?
He gave a class, and that was the title of the class. It's on YouTube. It has English transcriptions on the. You can watch the class. It's a fabulous class. It's in Hebrew, but there's English simultaneous translation. So, there, Rabbi Ginsburg explained that this Torah Academy model that he has been teaching for over 40 years, that it has come the time where we need to form groups. And what are these groups going to do? These groups are going to collect these teachings and maybe like we did today, maybe make a derivative work or maybe publish the original works. But no matter what a person's interest is, to see, well, okay, so let's find your interest, let's find the place in the Chassidus, in the inner dimension of Torah, and what would you like to do with it, right? Like here I took a chapter and I related it to a movie, right? That was just me. You could, whatever you would like to do, then I'm happy to be of service. And this is the new way to spread the wellsprings of Chassidus, because if you can imagine, if you have meetups, you have people that are very active in working with the material and making it their own, or just making a derivative work or whatever. So what do I mean by a derivative work? So, well, this class was an example of that. I took a chapter from a seminar in 2007 on physics, and I related it to a movie that came out last year, right? Won Best Picture, and I thought, okay, this is a good opportunity. And it was a little bit, it needed a little bit more work, but there was a lot of good correspondences, I think, and very interesting material. So we all have this potential. We all have this ability to do this, right? Each of you is knowledgeable in something that probably more, I'm knowledgeable in certain things, and you're knowledgeable in other things. So you're knowledgeable about the lexicon, the language that people use. You're expert in whatever field you're expert in, and the Torah relates to that. The Torah is the blueprint for creation, and it relates to that. So that one very good take-home homework from tonight would be to see, well, what would interest you to see something from Rabbi Ginsburg on in Hebrew or English, and if you need ideas of how to turn that into an article or a booklet or some type of cinematography thing, I'd be happy to be of service. So this is what Rabbi Ginsburg called the new era in spreading the wellsprings of Chassidus. And it was on the 41st day of the Omer, which is Aim, Aleph Mem, which also corresponds to our class, because Aleph Mem is the term Ipcha Mistabra, the initial letters for the term Ipcha Mistabra, which is a Gemara term, which basically means the opposite is the case, which we loosely translate is to be counterintuitive. And all of science, especially physics, is very, very counterintuitive. So if there's any ever a good time to talk about this new initiative that was first discussed on the 41st day of the Omer, it's at the end of a class about counterintuition. So thank you.
So this goes with the different spheres?
Oh, right. So thank you. So this goes according to the different spherot. There's the three heads of the crown. There's faith. These are the correspondences.
Oh, it's the tree of life.
Right. It's the tree of life. Right. Right. Thank you, Sasha. So there's the faith, Torah, and arts. Those are the three heads of the crown. And then Chachma, which is wisdom, is mathematics. Bina, understanding, is the exact sciences. Psychology is da'at, which is not knowledge. And then social sciences is chesed, or loving kindness.
So the arts is Kether? Well, okay,
It's very
cool.
interesting, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that too.
I mean, that's
All right.
that's really what art means, is
That's
amunot.
beautiful.
I
Amunot.
don't see
Awesome.
mathematics in Chokhmah. It may be quantum, but why mathematics?
So he explains everything at length over the 40 years. Don't worry, there's plenty of material. Plenty of material. And law is Gevura, and then medicine is Tiferet. And education is Netzach. And economics is Hod. And communication sciences is Yesod. Foundation. And political science is Malchut. So this is, believe me, if you have a question, this is one of the most talked about things on inner.org. There's plenty of material.
What's the website called?
Inner.org. Inner.
Inner.org.
Yeah,
Right.
that's Rabbi Ginsburg's.
There's a whole thick book that also discusses this called Torah and Science. It's on Amazon. If you really want to like delve into this, it's a nice big thick book. So that's another thing that I would suggest.
in English or Hebrew?
English. Yeah.
Where do you find this video?
Which video?
The one.
Oh, that's on the YouTube, on the inner.org Galenai, GALEINAI. So that's the YouTube. You go to the live tab, and you'll see it as part of the previous live class on the English YouTube channel.
And the YouTube channel is called.
Galenai. Yeah.
G-A-L
GAL
space
space.
E-I.
NAI. EINAI. Means, okay.
It means open up your eyes.
Right.
Ah,
It's from a verse in Psalms. It means, open my eyes that I may behold wonders from your Torah.
oh, fantastic.
And the whole motivation is to get people excited about Torah, to show the relevancy of Torah and how it relates to everything that they're interested in, whether it's a movie or whatever, doesn't matter. AI, you name it. That's the idea.
So you're taking class suggestions for the future, is that
So the title is A New Era in Spreading the Wellspring.
Yes.
So that would be a good.
Yeah, that's a wonderful class to watch.
Yeah, the next lecture.
Not yet. Not yet.
When we started, we were doing them once a month. So we're very happy that you are back and that this was a great return.
Thank you.
Great return. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
3-hour class.
That's normal. That's on the low side.
Yeah, I've listened to them before, an hour and a half, 2 hours. This one's.
You can do it, don't worry.